At ARAUCO, safety is our primary concern. It's one of our core values. Our company is dedicated to ensuring the safety of all our visitors, contractors, and employees. The following video will outline the safety rules and guidelines for all contractors at ARAUCO production facilities. Environmental and Safety Management Systems. This site maintains third-party certified environmental and safety management systems, ISO 14001 and 18001. These systems are a systematic approach to ensure compliance with all applicable environmental and safety regulations, continuous improvement, and employee awareness. Contractor Permit. A contractor work permit is often the first step to any job that begins at an ARAUCO facility and is essential for building a plan for the work that is to be completed. This required permit acts as a checklist to ensure all relevant hazards are identified and controlled. This permit also helps to ensure that a satisfactory level of work is completed. The employee that brings the contractor on site will be the contact for completing the contractor work permit. Incident reporting. All injuries, spills, and near misses are required to be reported to the appropriate ARAUCO employees as soon as possible. Personal safety equipment. It is crucial that all contractors use the required personal protection equipment, or PPE, while on company property. The following list of the required personal safety equipment should be considered as the minimum acceptable requirements and not determined to be all-inclusive. All contractors are required to wear an OSHA ANSI approved hard hat. Welders are required to have hood attachments to their hard hats. OSHA approved eye and face protection must be worn in the production facility. Approved goggles shall be worn when cutting with a torch, and approved face shields shall be worn when punching, hammering, chipping, grinding, or sawing. All contractors must utilize proper and effective hearing protection when working in high-noise areas and in the production facility. Proper footwear is required. Safety-toed hard leather boots or shoes must be worn. Open-toed running, tennis, or other lightweight shoes are not allowed. Gloves are required for any activity where hand protection is necessary, including welding and cutting. All PPE should be in acceptable working condition and only be used for the purpose in which it is intended. It is the responsibility of the contractor to provide the required personal safety equipment for their workers. ARAUCO will not provide safety equipment unless it is an emergency situation. Jewelry policy. ARAUCO supports a dress code that will minimize the risk to employees in the manufacturing environment. The following items are not to be worn in our production facilities: rings, necklaces, neck chains or lanyards, bracelets or watches, wallet or watch chains, and earrings. Ear studs are permissible provided they do not have any loops, chains, or hanging attachments. Medical necklaces properly tucked in one's shirt and medical alert ankle bracelets are permitted. Traveling throughout the facility. When moving throughout our facility, stay in close proximity of your guide and observe designated walkways. Always use pedestrian doors. Do not walk through equipment doors. It is important to be cautious and aware of your surroundings. Do not approach or contact mobile equipment. Watch for changes in elevation. Look out for hazards in all directions, forward, behind, and overhead. Be mindful of wet or slippery surfaces and proceed carefully. And always use 3 points of contact when using stairs to ensure stability. In case of emergency, all individuals inside the facility are responsible for knowing the locations of emergency exits, evacuation routes and procedures, and emergency storm-safe areas. Please familiarize yourself with these important locations on the facility map. Knife policy. To prevent lacerations and other serious injuries from sharp tools and objects, ARAUCO employs a strict knife policy. Hunting knives, carpet knives, linoleum knives, homemade knives, or any other knife with a non-retractable blade is prohibited. If the task requires the use of a knife, it is mandatory that cut-resistant gloves are worn anytime the blade is exposed. Wherever possible, knives should be replaced with alternate tools such as cutters, scissors, specialty knives, or shears. The use of unauthorized knives, the improper use of knives, or any other violation of these guidelines is a serious matter that will be considered non-compliance. Barricade tape. Proper use and identification of barricade tape is required throughout the production facility. Yellow tape is to be used to indicate caution, blue tape to establish an electrical boundary, and red tape to warn of danger. Authorization is required to cross blue and red tape. Mobile equipment safety. ARAUCO production facilities are continuously active. There is a tremendous amount of large vehicles, mobile equipment, and rolling stock moving throughout the facility at all times. Be sure to use mirrors at all intersections and listen for horns and backup alarms. When in the vicinity of moving equipment, always establish eye contact with equipment operators to ensure they are aware of your presence. Due to loud noises and potentially obscured vision, it is important that pedestrians understand that they are at a considerable disadvantage. It is our policy that all pedestrians yield to moving equipment while on company property. Contractors are not to enter restricted areas unless they have official authorization. These areas may require additional PPE, contain higher traffic, or other inherent hazards. Vehicles and other motorized equipment safeguards. Proper machine equipment functionality and operation is incredibly important. All contractors are expected to vigorously enforce a safety policy which requires safe operation of all equipment and machinery. All guards on moving equipment will remain in place at all times during operation. Brakes, emergency brakes, safety backup systems on all vehicles and machinery will be operable and in good shape during operation. Equipment will be tested for prior use and shall be repaired or removed from service if found to be defective. All vehicles shall be equipped with an adequate audible warning device at the operator's station. All bilateral machines, such as rollers, compactors, front-end loaders, bulldozers, and single equipment shall be equipped with a reverse signal alarm. No one will be allowed to work under any piece of equipment that could fall on him or her without proper blocking out. The contractor shall be responsible for proper operation of its vehicles and shall abide by all speed limits and traffic regulations. Contractor's responsibility includes subcontractor and supplier vehicles. Lockout/tagout procedures. Contractors must establish, communicate, and vigorously enforce a compliant lockout safety program, which prevents injury to employees while working on, under, or around equipment. Contractors must contact a knowledgeable ARAUCO employee to first review the energy control procedure for the equipment that will be locked out. The contractor and all workers shall not start any equipment without first ensuring that all persons are clear and free from danger. No individual is allowed to enter a machine without first making sure that the machine is properly locked out. Contractors must provide lockouts to be placed on the main disconnect switch of all machines being worked on by their personnel and subcontractors. A lock tag test procedure will be utilized in all cases. Every lock that is used in the lockout process must be clearly labeled with the name of the employee that applied it and the name of the company they work for. No one shall remove the lockout of another person. No one shall work beneath any raised lift, elevator, press, or other object without locking out the equipment and physically blocking or chaining the equipment to prevent falling. All locks are to be removed from the equipment in the presence of a designated ARAUCO employee before leaving the site. Confined space. Our site has many identified permit-required confined spaces. Entry into any confined space needs to be planned and coordinated with ARAUCO staff before access is authorized. Hot work and regulations. Contractors are required to establish safe procedures while either performing or working near welding or cutting operations to prevent employee injury and/or fires. OSHA-approved welding gloves, welding hoods, cutting goggles, and body protection must be worn during flame cutting, gas welding, and arc welding procedures. Acetylene and other compressed gas cylinders must be stored in an upright position and securely fastened in sturdy storage racks. Protective caps must be secured on all stored cylinders not in use. Gas cylinders in use must be securely fastened in OSHA-approved welding carts. When carted cylinders are not immediately in use, their valves must be closed and hoses drained of any residual gas. Freestanding cylinders are absolutely disallowed under any condition. Gas cylinders must be hosted in approved transport racks or in approved gas welding carts only. Slinging or otherwise hoisting gas cylinders is absolutely prohibited. Gasoline, propane, or diesel-driven electric arc welding machines are to be operated in well-ventilated areas or outside of building enclosures only. Welding cables and gas welding hoses must be protected from damage during welding and cutting procedures, as well as from traffic. All welding and cutting rigs shall have a fully charged fire extinguisher in the immediate vicinity. Contractors are required to possess a hot work permit prior to performing any hot work outside of the welding shop. Contractors may have to provide a qualified non-working employee whose sole responsibility is to act as fire watch for all cutting, welding, grinding, and sawing activities. Contractors must wet down the work area before any cutting or welding begins, and after work is completed, the contractor may be responsible for examining the area for any smoldering fires that might be present. Contractors are also required to notify an authorized ARAUCO representative prior to leaving the plant. Scaffolding, ladders, and elevated work. Contractors are required to follow safe work practices in the construction and use of scaffolds, ladders, and any other equipment used by employees while working in elevated areas. All scaffolding must conform to OSHA standards and be erected in accordance with federal, state, and local occupational safety and health codes. All ladders must conform to OSHA standards and requirements for each specific application. Construction personnel working in elevated areas must be protected by approved railings or must wear approved safety harnesses with lifelines that are attached to a secure fixture. When working from a vehicular-powered man-lift basket, safety harnesses will be attached to the man-lift basket or boom lift basket rather than fixed structures and/or buildings. Excavation, trenching, and shoring. Contractors must follow safe work practices in the construction and use of excavations, trenching, and shoring, and with the use of equipment used by employees while working in these areas. Prior to opening an excavation or trench, the contractor must identify and locate the exact location of any underground utility and notify the appropriate utility company and the company representative. Contractors are required to barricade all excavations, open-sided floors, and floor holes and openings. Barricades shall be provided at all times and must be of sufficient strength in construction to withstand all anticipated loads. Housekeeping and general rules. Contractors are responsible for maintaining safe, clean, and orderly work areas at all times. Stairs and walkways are to be kept clear of welding leads, welding hoses, construction residue, and any other potential hazards. Gasoline and other flammable liquids must be stored and transported in appropriate containers only. Flammable liquids are to be stored in designated areas only. Nails in lumber or other construction lumber must either be pulled out or bent over in order to avoid injury to on-site personnel. Construction materials are to be placed in designated areas and stored in orderly lots. All welding rods, nails, banding, metal straps, boxes, containers, etc. shall be disposed of in their proper place. When performing work above ground level, precautions must be taken to prevent dropping material on those below in the form of barricades or other safety equipment. Chemicals, oil, and grease. All chemical containers on site must be labeled and to be sealed appropriately, and SDSs must be available. ARAUCO EHS representative must be notified before any hazardous chemicals are brought on site. All chemical leaks, regardless of the size, product, or extent of the leak, must be repaired immediately, and the equipment must be free of any leaks before returning to service. The leaked material must be absorbed immediately and disposed of properly. Contractors are responsible for the proper storage, handling, and transfer of hazardous material waste during construction activities. Any disposal or mixing of hazardous chemicals or waste without official authorization is prohibited. Contractors must remove any containers storing hazardous products waste from the site upon completion of the project. All oil-covered equipment must be covered or stored appropriately. Any equipment, part, or item that is greasy, contains oil, or has been in contact with oil or grease, such as hydraulic hoses, oil lines, motor parts, must be cleaned before being discarded in the appropriate receptacle. Tobacco, firearms, alcohol, and illegal drugs. Smoking is allowed only in designated smoking areas. Users of smokeless tobacco are prohibited from spitting anywhere on company property and are responsible for the clean and proper disposal of their expectorate. Illegal drugs, alcohol, and firearms are strictly prohibited on all ARAUCO properties. Finally, these safety rules and guidelines have been put in place to ensure a clean, productive, and injury-free work environment. It is the obligation of all individuals on company property to conduct themselves in safe and appropriate behavior and strictly adhere to the safety requirements of the facility. Please understand that the presence of visitors and tour groups can be disruptive to the normal workplace environment, so we appreciate your cooperation to maintain a safe and productive facility. Contractors are hereby advised that the aforementioned safety rules are not intended to replace the contractor's own established safety rules and regulations, which may be more stringent. Contractors may also be provided with a set of plant safety rules that apply to the specific plant in which the work is being performed. If anyone has any questions or concerns, please contact an ARAUCO representative. Have a safe and productive visit. Thank you.